Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here. I'm Ina Fried, Chief Technology Correspondent at Axios. I author our daily newsletter, AI Plus, that covers the field. If you don't get it, you can just go to axios.com/newsletters. All we ask for is an email. I'll be in your inbox every day.
It's a great newsletter, so.
And I paid him only a small fee for that. So in case, for the couple of you that don't know, to my right is Andrew Ng, one of the pioneers of this field that we are all talking so much about. So I'm really excited about this opportunity. I think we're going to take a few minutes to talk about where we are right now, and then also, so what do we do about that? What should we be doing as individuals, as society, to kind of adjust for the world that Andrew helped kickstart? So, to level set, obviously we've been talking about AI here in Davos for a couple of years. First it was ChatGPT. Now everyone's, suddenly talking agents, AI taking action on its own. Where do you think we are? Cut through the hype and tell us where you think we are in this moment.
I'm seeing more and more businesses get positive ROI. And so to those who are involved in large enterprises or startups or NGOs, this is an excellent time to build. Maybe to share a little bit of a broader landscape, over the last few years, there's been a lot of buzz and hype and excitement about companies like OpenAI and Anthropic and Google's work on Gemini. And so I find that whenever there's a new technical innovation like AI, large language models, a lot of the hype and excitement is on the technology layer, like the foundation models or the semiconductors or the cloud companies. But even though a lot of the attention is there, the thing that will be more relevant to most of you is not, do you want to spend $1 billion to compete with OpenAI? The thing that will be more important to you is what are the applications you can build on top of it. A lot of the debates about ROI of AI is because so many billions of dollars have gone into training these foundation models, these large AI models, that people are actually wondering when will the payback come for them. But, and I hope there'll be a good answer to that. But it turns out that for you, if you're not in the business of training foundation models, because others have spent billions of dollars training these models, you can now get access to these models for cents or dollars or something and build really valuable applications on top. And so the ROI equation for people building applications actually looks really good, even though it still needs to be sorted out for the people building foundation models.
And so one of the things that I think would be, I get to spend all my time writing about AI, I get to spend my time talking. I get to spend all my time writing, reading about AI, trying out different tools. But most businesses, you're trying to do your day job. You're trying to figure out how I do it. And it feels like you're bombarded with constant announcements that, oh, we just did this thing and it changes everything. So last year it was chatbots, now it's agents. How should business leaders get started?
So a lot of the hype is driven by, whatever some company is trying to do to raise the next round of funding or do a PR announcement or whatever. So I find that the societal attention driven by this hype, for example, I think nuclear is a great idea, but it's also overhyped relative to its magnitude, even though I think it is a good idea. So a lot of things like that. But in terms of businesses, a lot of the applications to be built in the future will be specific to your business. Maybe to share some examples, my team AI Fund, we work with a lot of large corporates, but we do things like use AI to route ships to make them 10% more fuel efficient, or cross-border trade, using AI to smooth out the paperwork for cross-border trade so you don't have goods stuck at the border for multiple weeks, or government compliance paperwork, or to review privacy policies, or for AI medical diagnosis. So a lot of these are verticalized applications with access to specific company or industry's data. So for most of you, get your employees to use Gen AI or give them a productivity boost. But the other important thing to do would be to figure out what are the applications of AI that are relevant to your business and that use your data, and then find a way to build it. Actually, my team at AI Fund, we found that when we work with businesses on brainstorming, it's not uncommon for companies to come up with 100, 200, sometimes even more ideas. And then there's actually a lot of work to prioritize, make build versus buy decisions, and then execute on these projects. It can be really valuable, even though they don't get the hype that the technology layer companies often do.
And you hit on a couple things that I think are really important and that often get missed. I feel like a lot of people, when they think about generative AI, they still default to typing into ChatGPT and asking it to do my job. And to me, there's two problems with that. One is they're using a very general purpose tool, so they're not using their business data. Because to me, even if you're going to use something as broad as ChatGPT, as long as you upload some data, you can get some really good results. And the second thing is it's not tied into a specific task or business process. Where are companies from the folks you talk to and see in the process of doing what you're talking about, of really looking at, because again, the example you give, if you can make your shipping route 10% more fuel efficient, I mean, that would have huge benefits. You can make it 1% more efficient, you're probably talking a huge environmental impact. But just typing, hey, ChatGPT, how do I make my routes more efficient, isn't going to get you there.
Yeah. By the way, we actually, Bearing AI, led by Dylan Carl, we actually save each ship about $500,000 in fuel costs per year with AI. So, and it's interesting, and I feel like, but there are a lot of these industries that, I think are incredibly sexy and exciting, but the broader public does not. And frankly, I think it's great. We've been doing this shipping thing for years already, and we even talk about it publicly, but, because it's not hot and sexy and exciting, we don't have 100 Silicon Valley engineers trying to rebuild this in the dorm room. And so we've been doing this for years with, a little bit of competition, but much less compared to the consumer AI applications. But answer Ina's question of where we are, many companies are in the early stages. And maybe to share with you some best practices, right? So large companies are stereotypically slower than small startups at trying things out, for good reason, because you can't afford to have a random engineer ship something that damages your revenue or your brand or just does something awful to your customer data or something. But what I've seen, and I've been in the large corporate side, right? I've led AI teams in Google and Baidu. What I've seen is that when companies have too much protective DNA and every innovation needs marketing review, legal review, PR review, ethics review, then it just takes forever to do anything. So what I see smart companies doing is set up sandboxes to let your teams innovate and try things out very quickly, but with no risk of shipping it or security leak or anything that causes harm. So I actually direct my teams, build software that is unreliable, unsecure, just build a prototype, but don't ship it. Build it for internal testing only, and that creates a new engine for invention. And one of the reasons why I spend a lot of time on the corporate innovation process is AI-assisted coding is also changing the game for how we innovate. It turns out, if you look at software development, I think of a few buckets of software activities, including building quick and dirty prototypes, to building enterprise-grade software for the first time, to maintaining legacy software. And if you look at studies by McKinsey and others, they seem to suggest that for tasks like maintaining legacy software or building enterprise-grade software for the first time, AI-assisted coding is great. It'll give you maybe a 30 to 50% productivity boost or something, right? Don't take the numbers too seriously, but it's great. 30 to 50% boost is huge. But in these process of software, where I see AI-assisted coding being a game changer is prototyping, because now you can build a quick and dirty prototype in hours that used to take people like me like weeks or even months. And what this means is I see businesses able to go, you know what, let's get an engineer to build this over the weekend. We'll see what happens. In fact, you can even say, you know what, with 20 ideas, let's prototype them all. And if 18 of them die and 2 survive, that's fine. So this gives a new mechanism for reinvention. But part of the trick to empower your teams to do that is you cannot force every engineer wanting to do something to go through like a 9-month review process. And so set the internal mechanisms to brainstorm ideas, surface them, prioritize them, and execute a lot of them in parallel. This is becoming an important new mechanism for invention in companies.
And you're talking about this gain in coding. A lot of people, it's one of the areas that's benefited the most earliest from generative AI is coding. I've seen a lot of people take the attitude, oh man, you spent the last 10 years as an industry saying, learn to code, everyone should learn to code, and now the AI is great at it. We shouldn't have learned to code, or we shouldn't learn to code. I know you have a different view. Why should people still learn to code?
Yeah, so it turns out in the future, one of the most important skills for people in almost pretty much any profession is the ability to tell a computer exactly what you want it to do so they will do it for you. Computers become an incredibly powerful force. And in fact, I know a lot of people are fearful, will AI take my job or something? And to people feeling that way, I say, Learn to code, take control of it, so that you can be one of the masters of the computer to make it do what you want. And it turns out that people that know how to code are getting a massive productivity boost from Gen AI, whereas people that don't know how to code are getting a small a little bit. And what I'm seeing now, and I think will happen for foreseeable future, is if you don't know how to code, AI-assisted coding is, helpful, but almost all the time you hit a wall that you cannot get past. So people that understand how computers work, that know how to code, are able to use this much more effectively. And in fact, another interesting trend I'm seeing is the cost of software development is already falling a little bit, and I think it will fall much more in the future. So some examples from my team at DeepLearning.AI. My finance person, built an app to monitor international exchange rates. This is a finance person, right? Not a software engineer. To flag to her when, various dollars or whatever, do whatever, so she could manage international accounts better. I have a reporter on my team that, used to write for various prestigious magazines. Just this week, he demoed code that he had written, check into GitHub if you know what that is, to scrape RSS feeds, to scrape news feeds, to flag to him when there's an article that he should maybe consider, make sure to cover in our things. So I'm seeing people from all walks of life learn to code and able to use it for their job functions that are not software engineering. And previously, it was uneconomical to build these things. I could not hire a software engineer for software engineering salaries to build these applications to make one person's workflow a little bit more efficient. But with the cost of building simple apps and prototypes lower, it is now economical. But the trick is to actually make it work, and to be good at it, you actually do need to learn a little bit of how to code. I think Ina said, it turns out that with Gen AI, a little bit of coding knowledge now goes a long way. So it's very helpful to get that, at least that little bit of coding knowledge.
Well, hopefully my basic on the Apple II will come in handy. We're going to talk more. Andrew's convinced me I need to update my coding skills. We've been talking a lot about the company layer and kind of the what we should do as sort of business leaders, but I want to look at the societal level. One of the things you wrote about in the last couple of weeks that really caught my attention was around geoengineering. And I don't think it's fashionable this year at Davos to talk about a planet, but I still think it's the one planet we all live on, and we might want to make it livable. Talk about what you were using AI to do. Geoengineering, for those who don't know, most people think we're past the point where we can just curb emissions. We're going to have to do something to decarbonize, and talk about what you've seen and what you're looking into.
So for the last few years, I've been trying to use AI to address global warming, see what we can do. And so it turns out that the 1.5 degree Paris Agreement goal, that's dead. There's no plausible path that will keep warming to 1.5 degrees with an asterisk, which is without geoengineering. It looks almost certain we'll blow past 2 degrees and most likely end up with 2.5, maybe 2.6, 2.7 degrees if we don't hit any tipping points. If we hit a tipping point, then we may be looking at a 3.5 degree world that our children will grow up in, which would be, frankly, pretty catastrophic. So I think the only solution that I know of to avoid, let's say even 2.5 degrees is geoengineering. It turns out that if you spray reflective particles into the atmosphere, then if we reflect 1% of sunlight back out into space, our planet is albedo reflects 30% of sunlight back into space anyway. So if we increase the reflectivity by about 1%, that will buy us an extra 1 degree Celsius of cooling, and that's the only path in my mind to keep us at 1.5 degrees Celsius. So over the last few years, I've been working on AI climate modeling to understand the impacts of geoengineering, model local impacts as well, what happened to rainfall patterns. It turns out if with a cooler planet, there's less evaporation, and so less rain, and so there actually will be less water, which could be good or bad depending on the region. Is it flooding or is it drought? So to build AI climate models to understand that, and over the last couple of years, I have come to the point of view that there are very few. I think there are no other good solutions left if we want to keep the planet at 1.5 degrees. So I think this is something we should take seriously. And I feel like this is important. I feel like Davos is actually an excellent place to have this conversation. As Ina said, this is not a popular topic at WEF this year, but I hope that we can gain momentum to do this thing, because I think we are actually literally out of options at this point.
So I don't want to end there. I do want us to have that discussion. It's vitally important that we do. We only have about 30 seconds left. I want you to suggest one thing that people can do, and it's a softball here because I know you're still executive chair at Coursera. A lot of the classes that people are taking on AI. If you could recommend one class, what would it be?
Actually, the fastest growing class 2 years ago was Generative AI for Everyone, which I teach. But I would say training and education is important. And maybe to those of you in large corporations, this is an excellent time to build. Despite all the hype up that AI is expensive, it's expensive to build foundation models, but my team at AI Fund, we budget $55,000 to get to a working prototype to try to tackle an application, and sometimes we kill it. So we wasted $55,000, which is not great, but we'll survive. But the upside is enormous. McKinsey, I think, had a study showing that companies that invest in venture building deliver much better returns than companies that don't. And with AI technology that has newly made a lot of new applications possible, this is a great time to go back, get your teams to learn to code, get your teams to learn about Gen AI, and then set up the internal processes or have your ideas or team ideas to experiment and build. And I think the upside would be huge.
Well, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're going to have to leave it there. I do want to thank Qualcomm for making this space available. And as they used to say on TV when I was growing up, and now a word from our sponsor.